And recording in progress. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of Your Personal Record, the show where I, Adam Realman, talk to my guests, with my guests, or have my guests talk about record collecting, about music, about whatever we feel like talking about, wherever the conversation drives us. Today, I've got a Jersey legend right over here.
Oh, no, not a legend.
Yeah, no, come on. You are. I mean, listen, don't hold back, don't sell yourself short. A Jersey, I'm going with it. A
All right.
Jersey legend. All the way. Now that he had a shop in Asbury Park. You from Asbury?
No, I'm from South Asbury, like 20 minutes south of Asbury, down there, like Tom's River area. Yep.
Okay. So from South Jersey, zooming in.
I'm on the edge of Central. Don't say South. It's scary.
Oh,
man.
my God. All right. See, I'm not going to restart the whole thing now, but we're just going to go with it. It's like, is it South Central Jersey or Central South Jersey, or it's just Central Jersey?
South Central. I just say that to make myself feel better.
Can we say coastal Jersey?
We'll say coastal.
All the way from coastal Jersey. See, I mean, that's, but not the Jersey Shore. We don't want to say Jersey Shore.
See, you got to hit the sweet. Coastal Jersey is good.
That sounds right. It sounds nice, coastal Jersey. Joe from Holdfast Records. Wow. All right. So I've been schooled on like the locales of Jersey, whether we're north, south, central, coastal, shore, inland. We didn't get inland yet.
We'll work on that next time.
All right. That means that there will be a next time.
There might be. Yeah.
All right. Good. Wow. So how you doing? How's this? So the pandemic is sort of winding down, or maybe it's like wound down already. I don't really know.
I don't know, man. It feels like it's winding down. Things are getting back. I don't know if it's normal, but things are getting back, right?
Yeah.
I thought the pandemic was obviously a life changer all around.
I mean, certainly for you. I mean, the shop closed during the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah. I mean, we looked at the shop as like kind of a community, kind of communal environment, at all times. And with COVID hitting the way it did, my son being, 4 at the time, and me not ever being home, all of a sudden I was home. And, we realized like we don't need the place to have the community. And, that's the spiritual end of it. And I just wanted to be home, and be a dad. I miss seeing my wife. I didn't like coming home at 8 o'clock at night and getting up at 4 a.m, 5 days a week.
Right.
And on the business end of it, I think things are changing. Shops will always do okay if they're good shops. But for me, I think I'm built to be on the road. We do a good amount of traveling. And when the phone rings, you want to be able to go. You don't want to think like, hey, I can't get there for 3 days. You want to just get on a plane.
Right.
So for us, I think this is a better fit. And I miss the shop. I miss a lot of the people, but we see the people. We see them at shows. It's a good environment still. It's still a family kind of thing. It's just a different kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Now you're doing shows. I know you do, obviously, Jersey, New York. Do you go much beyond the Jersey, New York, maybe Connecticut area?
We've done Connecticut. Right now we're looking at booking all over the place. I mean, we're even looking down like the real South, Alabama. Yeah, we're looking at doing Texas, going out west. It's just a matter of, we're turning those things into like weekend vacations.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
It's a work vacation, so to speak. And, I mean, listen, so many of the dealers at this point that it's just like hanging out, I happen to be selling amazing records, but we're just hanging out for, a weekend BSing and whatnot, Yeah,
it's a weird beast because you're sitting around doing something you really do love. And then you're also realizing they're handing you money while you're doing it. And then you're like, you know what I'm going to do? Now I'm going to make a vacation. And so, you kind of, at one point you realize you're spoiled. You're like, oh, I'm going to go work in maybe Alabama for a day, but spend 4 days vacationing.
Right.
It's amazing. Can't do that with a shop. You know what I mean? That's kind of why. So.
I mean, that's basically when I'm gigging, that's sort of the way it works. It's, you get a gig somewhere and you'll do the gig, but it's a weekend away. It's a vacation. It's a couple of days. And, you make the best. You do the gig and then you spend the rest of the time, for me, going to record shop. So
yeah.
we used to do gigs at the House of Independence right across the street.
Yep.
And I would always try and get in, load in early so that I would, run across and, just go a little crazy and
Yeah. Do a little damage. Yeah.
exactly, sort of offset what I'm getting paid at the House of Independence. And there,
Always a break even experience in Asbury.
listen, but that's when I did the one and only Coney Island Record Fair. That was basically it. It was, okay, I'll take the money for the tables, but I'm just putting it right back in. So, I
Fun.
mean,
Once again, you're getting paid to do what you want to do. And if you're acquiring the things you like while you're doing these things, you're not really breaking even. I mean, it's worth it. Just mentally, it's
absolutely. Well, I got this one from you at the Coney Island show, the Lou Reed boot.
oh
That's
nice.
up there.
Oh, the unofficial live. We don't call them bootlegs now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, no, that's the stuff that you enjoy selling. It's the weird oddball stuff that the guy who has everything goes, "What is that?" And their
Right.
head a little.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only reason all the guys I know that do this. I mean, the little circle I run around in, and record dealers and sellers and buyers and everything else, they're all just looking for the stuff they don't have. And it's not even the stuff they know they don't have. Everybody wants to find the thing they don't know they need.
Right. Right. I,
That's the
I was looking on eBay this week, and as I do, when things are slow and I'm like sort of in between going to shows, and you peruse eBay, and I came across an Italian Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers Born to Lose Chinese Rocks, and I'm watching this and I'm stalking it and I'm watching it, and it was hovering at like $20 for for a week, and I'm set to bid on it. And I'm in the car and I can't bid. I won't touch the phone in the car and a snap. I get home and it sold at 85 bucks, which is fine. I mean,
yeah.
okay. But then I check my Discogs and sure enough, I have it. So, it's it's like, all right, I missed it, but I got it. So
Well, I mean, if we could all remember everything we have, I am the proud owner. Excuse my finger there. I am the proud owner of 4 copies of $150 45. So I had to sell off 3 copies, but I got really excited every time I found it.
that's it.
You
You
know,
forget you have it. And I mean, again, who's going to forget $150? Well, listen, it's not a $5,000 Misfits 45, which I'm sure you probably have passed through your hands many a time.
yeah,
But
yeah, that stuff's scary.
what's going on with it? I mean, so here you got, but now Lodi. That's where in Jersey is that? Is that
That's
central?
north.
That's North
No,
Jersey.
is that north?
I don't
I
know.
don't. I'm not going to comment on the position of other towns in New Jersey at this time. It's a
Okay.
big state, man. New Jersey's a weird place. We're getting real weird with this central, south, north thing.
Very, very territorial, I see. So I will just say, so a couple of guys from Lodi, put out some 45s, and some 35, 40 years later, they're you can buy a house with it.
Yeah, I don't. I get it. I kind of get it, but I don't get it. Obviously, the pandemic's playing into like the number situation with records to the point where it's not just punk. It's like everything's exploded. Like I'm looking up Dolly Parton records that I never looked up in my life, and all of a sudden it's like, why are you paying $68 for Dolly Parton? I love Dolly.
Wow.
It's kind of awesome, but once again, why are you paying 68 for it or 72? Or why is Joni Mitchell Blue a $50 record?
So
You know,
is the answer because people during the pandemic just had the money to see, between whether it's unemployment, whether they're not going out, whether they're not buying clothes. So now I've warehoused this money. Obviously, the rich are getting richer, and maybe the middle class has a couple of extra dollars to spend on this type of stuff.
I I think there's, obviously they had a lot of time on their hands,
Yeah,
and like everybody else, everybody had time on their hands. But I don't know if it was extra money, but I mean, we're looking at dumb money because the reality is now that we're back into things almost going back to normal, the numbers aren't going down,
correct.
which I predicted like a month or two ago. I said, things will start going back to normal, as far as the prices on records. And all of a sudden I'm looking at things and I'm going, I will not charge $68 to $75 for a Dolly Parton record. Yeah, I just won't do it. I physically can't do it. I think it's just insanity. But you can't blame anybody who does because people are paying it. And if that's what's going to make them happy, let them be happy. But it's, once you look in your wallet and go, well, I didn't go out drinking this week, I saved $50. I didn't go out and eat dinner 3 times, I saved 200. Like you said,
Right.
I mean, it piles up, and then it's going to go somewhere.
Well,
I
that's it.
mean,
You spend a year living in sweatpants and not buying, work clothes. There's the money for records. So, I
yep,
mean, it does make a certain amount of sense that people are, the prices are kind of skyrocketing. But
insane.
I was down in Florida, in South Florida. See, I can say that because I know
Right?
that they call that area South Florida.
Where in South Florida?
I was well, I mean, I went to a few shops in Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood.
Okay. It was just down in that area. So, all right, go ahead.
And I mean, some of the shops were terrific. I did a video. I don't know when I'll post. If I may post it, I may not post it, but whatever. I mean, we could talk about some of the shops. You been to the record shops down there?
And I mean, that's the funny part. I flew down there, landed at 10 in the morning, bought a record collection, about 6,000 records, processed it in the parking lot of my hotel, priced it, and flew home the next morning. I shipped it all back and met it. By the time I got back, it got back.
Wow.
I stopped at one shop. I stopped at VP Records, the warehouse, just to hang out with the guy, the salesman, just to see him because I had never.
I'm still processing the fact that you fly down, you like 6,000 records. I mean, 6,000 records is a lot of records. I mean, this wall in back of me is 1,200, give or take. So we're talking, it's one of those 5x5 IKEAs. So, what are we
Yeah,
talking? Give it take 1,200.
around. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, 6,000. So now imagine like, four of these or, four and change. And
Yeah.
so how did you get them back? You said you shipped them. Is this like,
No, I literally, I mean, I media mailed. I processed and ended up shipping back almost 3,500 of them, and then donated 2,500 to the local Salvation Army. I had, I gave myself 2 days to do it. I was supposed to fly back a day or two later, and I just landed. And this is the second time I've been to the same house. I bought out the first half of the collection a couple years ago, and it's a legendary collection. People have been chasing it for years. I just got lucky. I don't know if it's luck, but I got the call, and I went down there, and it just worked out. Me and the guy became buddies. But I landed. I literally got in my rental, drove directly to his house, got out. He met me. I didn't even go in the house. He met me out front and just went to work. Because it's a job. You know, Sometimes, unfortunately, the coolest parts of this you have to ignore. When you do this for a living, and that's what really sucks because you're looking at it was 6,000 reggae records. That's like I would swim in that if I had time.
yeah,
I'd be like screwed.
that's, I mean,
You know,
you go down to Jamaica every year just to
yeah,
go record shopping, record shop and digging. And I want to talk about that. I mean, because reggae to me, I know zero. I know, your requisite Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, and that's where it begins and ends. But I do want to talk about the trips to Jamaica, but I'm fascinated now with this trip to Florida.
okay,
So now you get the call. Did you know this guy or how did this guy
yeah.
find you? How did you find him?
So we were
Without
doing
revealing like your secrets.
no. I mean, once again, we're pretty hard on our sleeves. So doing all these trips to Jamaica that we do, it ties into Florida. Florida, obviously, there's a very large Jamaican population. Um, and we have friends on the island. And once you kind of make the friends on the island, you kind of start making friends all over the world
All right.
because, Jamaica's a hub for a lot of these guys who obviously moved out of Jamaica and went to other countries, but also guys who fly in. There's a good 7 or 8 of us that leave business cards in all the spots that we hit in Jamaica. And you can keep track of who's been where on the island. And it's a very small little world. And it's a very cool part of doing it. But because of those relationships, you start getting phone calls from like a dude in Australia who knows a guy in Florida, who knows a guy who flew to Jamaica, who just got back. And this guy happened to be, his name was DeRoy Wood. There's a world famous picture of him and his sister standing next to Bob Marley and Peter Tosh in 1970, actually 1968, I believe it is. And he ran a very big sound system, with thousands of records. And he's producer for the Meditations. And there was a rumor that this collection was floating around for years. And, I'd flown down and bought a couple other collections in Florida, and I always kind of dipped my toe in the water with it. And I was like, hey, you guys wouldn't happen to know a guy named DeRoy, a lot of that.
Right.
And one way or another, I got a phone call from Jamaica. And one of my buddies just said, "Hey, I tracked down a collection. This is my man, DeRoy. We heard that you were, looking for it."
And you're like, whoa.
And they called me. I'll never forget. Buju Banton was doing his return to Jamaica show from getting out of jail for 10 years. It's kind of a big deal, it's a big deal. And I got a call from the yard where they were practicing, and it was like, "Hey, this man wants to talk to you. Here's his number." And I called him, and the beauty of the Jamaican scene and the reggae scene is that once there's a trust level, it's not just trust, like it's love. So however cheesy that sounds, if they think you're pushing their music forward and doing them right after all these years of being ripped off, they actually have an honest, they will invite you in to eat. There's
Right.
no, business is business, but they will invite you in to eat. And that's a big deal. So all of a sudden my name got down there. I flew down the first time the gentleman had sold me. I did the same thing. I flew down on a Tuesday. I went through a couple thousand records, 2 or 3,000. I knew it wasn't the good stuff. I'm not stupid. I do this all day. Like, records, when you're looking at hey, I kind of don't want these records,
Right.
And I paid him probably triple what he was expecting. And I said to him, I was like, "I'm paying more than I should." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, here's the reality. I want the good records in the garage." I said, "So when you're ready," I said, "you make that call." And, that trip I drove back. I loaded the van and drove back and made it back by 11 o'clock the next night. I landed at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, made it back by Wednesday, 11, excuse me.
Wow.
Yeah. Just drove straight through because I try and always get home before my son goes to bed.
Wow.
So, this time he calls me and he said, "Oh, we had a few conversations." He just said, "I got the good records for you this time." I said, "Cool. When do you want me?" In the middle of the pandemic, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
So I got vaccinated and jumped on the plane and flew right down.
Wow.
And, waited. Obviously I waited till I was clear on the vaccination, flew down and we got there, and it's always business when you first, it's let's do the records.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked for like 2 hours on his front porch. And, this is a guy who hung out with everybody.
Right.
This guy knew everybody. Yeah. And he gave me the history on a lot of things. The beauty of the Jamaican and reggae scene and the reggae scene as a whole is punk guys, like these punk and hardcore metal guys, go nuts for private press stuff and all this craziness. They pay stupid money for it. You'll never know in the reggae world when you've hit the end.
Because there's that deep.
Yeah, it's so undocumented. There's stuff that's popping up from the late 90s that no one knew about, let alone the 60s.
Right.
So it's pretty intense. And so when you go into these collections, even though it is business, I was sitting in this parking lot in Durrell, Florida, with my rental van, and I pulled out probably 200 records I'd never seen in my life, never even heard of these artists. I don't know if you can say that about any other kind of music at this point.
Now, all right, this is again, like, as deep as the Jamaican music scene is, this is incredibly deep. So now you find 200 artists you've never heard of before. What are you're on your phone looking at? Is this shit even on Discogs or?
Yeah, good amount of it'll pop up, but the problem is, you'll say, okay, cool. We'll say a couple hundred. 2/3 of them will pop up, and it'll be like random dude who, put out this one dance hall hit, random dude who knew a dude who put out the record for him, the usual private press thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll get stuck with 30 records that you have absolutely no clue, like zero.
Nothing on the internet. You're digging deep. You're going like dark web, and you're not finding anything.
You'll end up doing a couple phone calls. We have some. We're very lucky. We have access to people, so it's like, hey, and then I called DeRoy. I said, "Hey, listen, I'm looking at a bunch of stuff I never heard of." I said, "Who's this guy?" "Oh, that guy. He's a guy in Miami. He did one track. He was good, but we ran him out of town." "Oh, that guy is this guy from Jamaica. I produced it because I owed him money. I threw all the copies in the garbage and kept one." So you deal with a lot of. You kind of get the stories as you go. You're not reading a lot of these stories on the internet, which is cool.
Right.
You got to kind of get them from the source. Otherwise, you're just not getting them.
Now, it's certainly a lot of work, but have you ever considered documenting any of this on a blog or any, kind of the record, the label, and the story behind it?
Well, the upside to all this is all the things I just said. The downside to all this is a lot of the guys in the reggae scene are very protective. And a lot of them are like, you know, because it's a DJ culture, and that's where it really differs from punk rock and hardcore and metal. It's a DJ culture. So everybody is fighting to have a song that no one else is playing. So when you find that track and you go, hey man, blah, 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 no one's ever heard this. It's cool. Let's document it. Everybody goes, shh, go fucking play it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Well, myself for the last couple of years doing that pre-COVID, I was DJing and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play that weird track from that dude in Miami because I'm sitting here with 30 reggae nerds and no one's heard it. That's a big deal when you're, you know, when you're in nerd world, you know, it's like I DJ'd the last big FMU show, you know, and I played a couple tracks that I was like, no one owns this because I own the test press. You know what I mean?
Right.
Walked up, he's like, who's this? I'm like, oh, it's Mikey Match from Miami. He's like, who is Mike? I'm like, I don't even know who Mikey Match is, but I know I own it, you know.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very weird world. It's fun though, man, getting on a plane and doing that, and then you're driving. It's like an adventure. It's cool. It's just fun.
That's why. I mean, what a story, you know. Now, let's say locally, you know, within, and you'll go pretty much anywhere around the country to pick up a collection.
If it's worth it, we go. There's no middle.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of times they've called, you know, or inquired, oh yeah, we've got this. You get there and it's like a bunch of, you know, Frampton comes alive.
Yeah. You take a couple on the chin, you know, you have to, but you know, you have to swing. You can't not swing. You know, we joke around about the no stone unturned thing. I've been doing records, you know, for a living now for over 12, 13 years. And I still go to flea markets at 4 a.m. I still get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every Friday and go to the flea market, and I'm there by 4. And the day I stop doing that is the day that I should probably quit.
Right.
You know, because I'm not saying that's the only way to succeed, but for me, that's the only way to feel like I'm doing it right.
Yeah. And I mean, you're finding stuff at the flea market at 3, 4 in the morning.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. But you know, I've built relationships there like we built in the Jamaican community. We got guys who call, hey, it's clean out guys and storage unit guys, and you never know what they're going to find. And one day it's like a box of Montiavani.
Right.
But you know, a year and a half ago, I was on my way to a record show and I bought probably one of the best punk collections I've ever seen in my life over the phone. You know, and I didn't know I bought it. I just said, how many records? Do you see any Mohawks? Yeah, there's a ton of Mohawks. I'm like, cool, we'll take everything. Just how much money? And I called another guy to go pay him, you know?
Right.
And then started getting pictures, and it was insanity. It was, you know, $1,500 this, $2,000 that, and $300 this. And, you know, so, you know, record collecting, as we know, is a weird beast. Plain and simple.
Let's say, how do you decide what you're going to keep and what you're going to sell?
I keep almost nothing. So in the shop, we had a deal where I would keep 2 records a month, but I'd have to take 2 out of my collection.
So how many are in your collection?
Right now I'm hovering around 8 to 10,000 45s.
Okay.
Probably, geez, I don't even know how, probably 800 to 1,000 LPs, over 250 dub plates. That's my weakness. That's where it gets a little hokey. You know, the 45s I don't really count because I use them to DJ, and I'm not like, you know, I'm not excited about 8,000 of them. I'm probably excited about 500 of them.
Right.
You know, they're more of a tool than they are a pleasure. You know what I mean?
And the majority of this collection here, reggae.
All reggae.
All reggae. No
punk.
No hardcore, no punk, no metal.
Gone. It's all out of
my,
every piece of it. Yep.
Wow.
It's better off with. Yeah.
But what'd you say?
It's better off with somebody else. You know, it served its purpose with me. I'm not that mad anymore. I'm still mad, man, but I just ain't that mad. You know what I mean? Like,
now, like, anybody, you know, any, you know, famous celebrities hunt you down for some of the reggae that you got?
Yeah, I mean, one of the weirdest crossover ever is the fact that one of the guys I do a lot of my record shopping with is Southside Johnny. I just flew him out to Jamaica with me a couple of years back to go record shopping.
Wow.
We took to the toughest parts of Jamaica, did a documentary on it. I had him play with Earl Chinna Smith, who is guitar player for Bob Marley. He wrote Three Little Birds, a bunch of other songs. But John's an insane record nerd, and he's not a reggae guy, but he's a soul guy. So we cross over a lot musically.
Mhm.
I mean, I just talked to him today. He gets usually first crack at all my soul stuff, and whenever he gets reggae, get first crack at his, and we trade leads constantly. And I shouldn't say constantly, pretty regularly. And the crossover is we're down in Jamaica, and this guy's holding a conversation with guys who just talk music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
And he's telling them names they've never heard. And it's really cool when you see like different cultures, generations, kind of clash. But for me, it's no longer what I find, it's finding it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think I'm collecting. I think I'm in a weird spot now where I don't care how many records I have anymore. I just want to find more. I'm a
that's the thing with any record collector. I think most record collectors. I mean, I spoke to let's say Lee a couple of months ago. Lee Stefanko. He's got a shop in I guess what like around Trenton area. Would that be considered South Jersey?
That's
we're not going to discuss that. That's for offline. We cause too many problems with geography. So he's got like a catch and release program where he wants something, he'll find it, he'll get it, and at a certain point he gets bored with it and sells it to buy something new.
I do the good old play it out once, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay, I'm over it. Yeah, I think everybody's got a little bit of that in them, right?
I kind of don't. I mean, for me, I say this is like a roach motel. It comes in and it doesn't come out. No matter what. I have trouble. I mean, some stuff like the newer stuff, if I'm really not into it, it's just, I don't know what I got this, but the older stuff that I have, the stuff that I really kind of seek out and collect, the Ramones, like that first wave of CBGB stuff is like my thing. And if it's, I can't get rid of any of it. I know doubles, triples, multiple copies, variants. I can't sell it.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of guys who start doing this for a living have a really hard time with that. And that's the one thing I watch a lot of these guys I see at shows and everything else. And it's the crack dealer dipping into his own stash a lot of times. And it's tough to watch those guys like shop when they're working at a show. Like they're trying to sell records, but they're like, it's like watching someone steal their child right in front of them, and they kind of yell no, but they let it happen. And then they have this weird shame and guilt. And then they start talking to me and they're like, how do you just sell the record? I'm like, because to me, I just figured out one day the lifestyle is more important than the thing.
Yeah.
I think I got past the collecting end of this. Because now for me, I'd rather go to Jamaica and do 4 days on the island of just complete and total crazy stress of like, there's all kinds of nuts things going on there all day, every day when we're there. I'd rather do that than own a record that's worth $5,000.
Right.
I'd rather sell a record and go do that for 4 days than own the record. I just don't, now I'm equating it to, no, I kind of want to be able to stay home. And if I have to sell records to do that, I'll sell records, like it's weird, but it happens,
So for you, it's the experience. It's the experience of the hunt.
It's the hustle and fun.
Right. Well, I mean, see, I'm a guy who I if I never had to leave my house, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'm that guy who, they come to me, and if it's within like 2 miles, great. Spend the night. I'd rather not, unless I'm getting paid for it, in which case, okay, fine. So, but I guess ultimately you do get, there is a return on the trip, so to speak. So
yeah. I mean, there's always money. I mean, everything is business, and financially, those trips are worth it. There's a lot of break-even trips, but realistically, if you go to Atlantic City and break even, you go, I broke even. You go to Jamaica and you spend 4 days record shopping and climbing through holes in walls, and rats are running across your feet, and there's always something kind of so ridiculously bad that it's funny going on around you. It's like you can tell the distance, how deep you are into the city. We always joke about this. Here you count like between thunder, right? You're like 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, the thunderstorm's getting closer. There we count the no pissing on the wall signs. to show how deep we are into the city.
So
The more you see, the deeper you are. Sometimes they're actually not even a foot apart. So the deeper you get into the city, the more of those you see. And you know, it's like laughable stuff like that that makes every trip worth it. Like it's pretty funny. You can't put a price on those things, man. You can't put a price on the friendships, the family that we have down there, and the back and forth. And you know, I have a kid. I called Jamaica. Was one of the first phone calls I made. Was calling one of the guys on the island. You know, like, hey, I had my. He's like, oh, you know, first thing you do is slap that boy in the face. Reality's rough. Tell him, you know. And I'm laughing, like, I'm like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, if this moment was happening, I'd think it was surreal. And now I'm like on the phone with a Jamaican dude telling him to slap my newborn. You can only get that in the record world. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you got coming up here? I mean, so you do an Asbury show, yes? Like a record fair down there. Tell us a little about that.
yeah, minus the zombie apocalypse, we usually do a couple a year. We have June 27th. We're at Kennedy Park, which is the same street, Cookman, which is the same street my shop was on. That'll be this Sunday not Father's Day. Next Sunday coming up, 10 a.m. to 4 o'clock. It's a free show. It's outdoors. Looks like the weather's going to be awesome. You know, it's going to be 15 vendors. We keep those affairs kind of a little on the smaller side because we want everybody to A, have fun, B, but we also want the vendors to have fun, which usually means they need to make money. Mm-hmm. We try and always have a couple of ringers there, guys who've never done shows before and stuff like that. So there's, you know, the excitement of finding something really, really good, really, really cheap, which everybody loves. We have some other dates we're going to be announcing soon. You know, we're doing some shows in New York. We're waiting on dates to be confirmed with, you know, we love the guys from Vinyl Revolution. Mike puts on amazing shows.
They just announced their show in it was a Garden City, right? In October. Yeah.
We'll be on. Yeah, that's always a fun show. You know, the Jersey City Record Riot guys are awesome. They take really good care of us. We've been doing that show on the regular. And that show's a lot of fun. We get to see all of our city friends and our New Jersey friends, the North Jersey people come out for that one. And the shows are cool, man. We got a lot coming up. It's just funny because now that we're in this post-pandemic weirdness, there's so much coming up. You can't announce it all at once.
Yeah.
Because blur for everybody. They get overwhelmed, you know.
That's
so
it.
Like,
you got to go sort of, one at a time, right? You put too much out there and people get, overload and they can't keep up. I mean, I'm still waiting on a date. Hopefully we'll be doing another Coney Island show.
Yeah, that was a fun show. Like that was straight up a fun show. And I can tell you, there's a big difference between just like a good show and hey, everybody made money and it was a cool day. That was a fun show. Everybody had a good time. Everybody was really relaxed. I'm usually not relaxed at shows, and even I was very relaxed and like joking around, and it was a good day, man.
I'm glad everyone else was relaxed because I was a little stressed out, but it was all right. I'm happy that everyone enjoyed, and I mean the feedback generally seemed positive. So that said, I think most of the dealers would come back to it, and I'd be happy to have them.
I think you're onto something over there. I think you should do something again. Definitely, it was fun. It was, and once again, you're never going to make everybody happy,
right?
But you can everybody shut up.
Yeah,
that's what I was taught in the promoting world. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, 15 out of 20 vendors are pretty happy, but those other 15 make the other 5 look dumb. So I'm okay with that.
That's correct. No, not a problem with that at all.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with me. Apparently you had the bad day. It's your fault.
But it's interesting when you said, there's a difference between a fun show and a good show. A good show is you're making money, and a fun show is, we're doing all right, but we had a good time.
Yeah, a fun show is like, hey, load in went easy. Hey, this went easy. Hey, there's good food. Everybody always discounts the food thing. Like the highlight of your day, no matter how much money you're making, usually at a show, because at one point you're sitting behind a table for 6 hours.
Right.
It's the food. So the food is always a big thing. And there's a couple shows I love just because I know there's a really good vegan place around the corner. Yeah, and I'm always like, I only made like this much money. But the reality is that fucking burger is awesome.
Now, Nathan's, just so that if we do another brewery show, Nathan's is now offering veggie hot dogs.
See, that's good. I went up to Golden Crust. So I'm always happy to go to Golden Crust. Got some Jamaican veggie patties, and I'm good.
and you're
Trust-
good to go. I mean, the brewery actually is doing food as well now.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
But
Yeah.
I mean, again, that was something that was sort of in the making. Then COVID hit and all hell broke loose and everything shut down. But let's hope that things are going to improve.
We can't we can't control any of that. You know that. All we can do is either get vaccinated or take our stance to not, whatever. I'm not getting into that, but I think we're finding our way, and I
Yeah.
think Darwin picked the rest. So
Well said.
I think we're finding.
No, what we've learned on this show so far is that we are not a political show and not a geographical show. So we keep our mouths shut about both of those.
So that's probably the best way to go, right?
Right. Probably more so about geography. I'm learning than
You know what? I'm a big
politics.
reggae guy. Politically, don't have to tell anybody where I stand. I'm into reggae. So yeah, I'm good. I just let my choice of music speak for itself.
You let your Jamaican flag fly, and we're good.
Yeah, a lot of the hardcore punk guys, you never know. But the reality is, with reggae guys, you're pretty safe.
It's out there.
I songs about it anymore because now that herb's getting legalized, it's going to be weird. Like everybody's running out of material. We'll see what happens.
It's interesting because someone had emailed me today about they're doing an article in High Times magazine, about sideshows and whatnot, and had a bunch of questions for me about what strains. I said I don't smoke.
Same. I haven't smoked since before my son was born. Yeah,
It's not my jam. I mean, I know so many people that do. It's just not something that I enjoy.
To be honest with you, it was my jam. Like all day, a lot. But then before my son was born, I decided to stop. The only people that were actually disappointed were the guys on the island, because to them it's like a religious and it's a thing.
Having a drink, right? Hey, well, let's go out and have a drink.
I'm very clear about this too. I'm 15 years sober. I haven't drank in 15 years. So when I go down the island, there's obviously we're not around businessmen all day. We're around Rastafarians. We're around a lot of Orthodox Rastafarians. We're inside Studio One. We're in all these spots where there is A, it's business, but B, it's become communal because we're down there so much. The chalice always gets passed, and it's one of those, guys got insulted for a while because I used to actually smoke. And then now that I don't, it was like, oh, we're not good enough. And I'm like, no. The problem is you're too good. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to die if I smoke with you now that I'm older. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just can't hang anymore. That's what it really comes down to. Like, it's pretty crazy. But once again, because it's a big part of their culture, I have that conversation about 10 times a trip.
Right.
Oh, what happened to you? Like I got hit by a car and all of a sudden I couldn't smoke herb anymore.
Listen, I mean, it's just not your thing. I totally dig it.
Yeah,
it's
not
my thing. I mean, I can have a drink, but I mean, it was never, never an issue. One drink, two drink, but weed, it's just, I mean, but I suppose now that what is it? It's well, I guess it's decriminalized in New York, which means that if you have a certain amount, maybe it's 3 ounces on you of recreation. I was just reading about this. Then it's okay. Anything more is, I guess finable or whatever.
The fact that they made it so goddamn confusing does not help anybody who smokes a lot of herb.
Right.
So, I deal with this on the island too, because there's a big decriminalization thing going on the island. So a lot of guys down there were asking me. I'm like, you live here, man. This is your. I don't know what I can do and can't do. I was like, I just don't smoke at all. And they're like, no, we can't not do that. I'm not saying that. I was like, no, I don't smoke because I don't know what's legal. I just don't smoke because I don't smoke. And then, up here, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I could tell you, you see it openly in the last 2 weeks. More people smoking openly in the last 2 weeks I think I've seen in my life. I feel like I'm like walking through a festival half the time I'm out and about now.
You walk down some streets and it's like a scratch and sniff Cheech and Chong movie.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, it's it's all. I don't like the smell particularly, but to each his own.
Better than nicotine. I mean, I'm an ex-smoker. I used to pray for the moment I walked through somebody's waft of cigarette smoke just to have that more time.
Isn't that the best? I mean,
but now I walk through and I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm getting anymore. Like, I don't know if I'm.
Yeah,
it's great.
30 years on and off cigarettes, and I've been off for, about 6 years already.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
it's, but again, I mean, it's funny because this last quit, I had no desire to go back. And normally I can go 3, 4, 5 years and will inevitably go back. And,
Yeah.
whatever. But this time it's, I think certainly the last 15, 16 months, being inside, worrying about a, respiratory system.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, you know what? We're done. I mean, it may smell great as you're walking past, someone on a crisp autumn day, but forget it. I actually picked up a couple of over the pandemic, certainly a couple of records on how to quit smoking. One was like a
Oh,
hypnosis record,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I put it on, and the guy's talking to you about how good cigarettes are,
Yeah.
and I actually had to stop it. I'm like, it's gonna make me smoke again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. My downfall is every morning when I wake up, that was the best cigarette of the day was that coffee and cigarette. So
Oh yeah.
the first half hour of my day is pretty painful, and I'm over 5 years without smoking a cigarette. I still that first half hour, I'm just like, oh, what? Because now I'm vegetarian too, which isn't by choice. It's health. So I was just like, what I'd give it this morning, what I would give for a big pork roll sandwich with a cigarette in the middle of it, and
Yeah.
three all caffeinated. I don't even drink coffee anymore. I drink a quarter of a cup of caffeinated coffee a day. That's it. A quarter of a cup.
And that's
Yeah, I'm
for health reasons.
record guy, big party.
Yeah, seriously.
No caffeine, no herb, no beer. I'm a good time. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, once again though, the lifestyle's worth it. I can go do those things, but I can't be a record guy and go do those things. You can't get up at 4 a.m. if you're drinking beer every night. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Well, that's it. So I mean, you're only the strong survive, and that that's why you're buying amazing collections. So
Yeah.
that's it.
On the record front, it is weird because I do get a lot of flack for not smoking herb and listening to reggae. Oh, you don't smoke. I'm like, so you listen to Van Halen, but you don't drive. Like you're not.
You're not drinking, swigging Jack in your Camaro, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you like David Lee Roth, but you don't want a glazed donut and anything to go. Like I don't get it. How does this work? So you're not allowed to laugh at Cheech and Chong anymore because you don't smoke. It's just a very weird. It's a weird take on it that I've actually had to deal with like a ton of times, man. It's almost like kind of ridiculous. What's the first band you're gonna go see? What's the first band you go out and see?
That's I don't know yet. I have no. I was looking to get Bauhaus tickets. They're
Oh,
playing the King's Theater, and you know what?
oh,
They were like $150 for the pit,
oh, wow.
and just beyond the pit, they were about one and a quarter. And I said, you know what? I don't like them that. I saw King Diamond in the same theater and
Right.
got the first row just beyond so literally first row beyond the pit, and tickets were like $50.
That's awesome.
So I mean, I don't know. What are you going to see? You got tickets for anything?
The only thing that kind of got me, once again, it's that overwhelming, like everybody's booking everything all the time. The only thing I'm actually tempted to go do is Jason Isbell, the guy who sing for the sing with the drive-by truckers. Nothing else has caught me. Everything else, I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with that crowd. I don't know if I want to get puked on. I don't know if I want this guy sweating on me.
See, right.
Yeah, Jason Isbell just be like 45 to 55-year-old rockers. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's going to be a different type of crowd. I don't know. Nothing's really, like you said, nothing's grabbed me yet. And the things that are of interest are ridiculously expensive. I mean, again, $100 for a concert ticket today probably isn't that much.
no, it's not crazy. I mean, I did the production world for years. They'll charge you whatever you'll pay. And right now
That's it.
people pay anything. So we'll see how that all works out. It'll go down in like 6 months when everybody's like, wait a minute, it costs $12 for a beer and I paid $100 to get in.
Right.
Yeah. Something will have
Well,
to give.
I mean, what was your last concert before the pandemic?
Oh geez. I don't even know. I don't really go to shows anymore. So that's a tough one. I can't even really remember. I have absolutely no clue. Because I did, production for a long time, I stopped going to shows because it felt like,
Felt
I
like
was
work.
like, cool. Yeah, I'm the guy watching the show who's like in everybody's ear. I'm like, oh, the left whatever truss is a little down the left stage, and everybody would just get annoyed because I'm pointing out that one subwoofer is a little too far forward.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, oh, that guy, why is that guy on stage? To the point where it started annoying me. So I was just like, yeah, I don't even want to be with me at shows anymore.
Better off just staying home, looking at the reggae records and playing with my son. That's it.
Yeah. I think I went to I think actually it was a Southside Johnny show. I went just to see him for a little bit because he was playing the Pony, and that's like, a meeting of all the worlds for me because I worked at the Pony for years. And I remember just being like, he's like, oh, you're gonna stay for my set. And I remember openly laughing and leaving. You know what I mean?
Ouch.
Yeah, no, not he knows. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like screw you. I don't like your music. More like screw you. I feel like I'm at work right now.
Right.
You here? I don't have to be here. I'm out.
I hear you. That was the last, like, I guess big-ish show that I saw was Cheap Trick.
Oh, cool.
They were great. We saw them. Not I don't know what they used to be like the Westbury Music. I don't know what the hell they call it now, but it was in the half round. And any seat in that, first of all, the sound in that room is incredible. You walk in and just it's a small theater, but it's like the room is so tight with
Yeah.
sound. You can kind of hear the silence as you walk in and hear the
Oh, that's cool.
tightness, and
Yeah,
it really great sound. And then a couple of weeks, I guess it was really right, probably March. I went to go see my friends, the Gotham Rockets, who were opening up for Walter Lore and the Waldos with
Okay.
what would have been his last show. Only I left after my friend's band didn't stick around for Walter Lore, and kind of regret it now. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd
That
seen
happened.
him so many times in the past, but that was a regret. So
Tell you, one of the spots, if you ever get the chance, I don't know if you've ever seen anything at the Paramount Theater in Asbury.
yeah,
Paramount. Oh, the Paramount is as many venues as I've worked in, as many as venues I've seen bands in, as many venues I've seen even just people speak in. That venue is easily in the top 3. I mean, it is amazing. If a mouse farts in there, it is art. I mean, it is amazing.
yeah.
That venue is untouchable for sound.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I mean, I turned down doing a Murphy's Law show to actually work a Jersey's Boy show at that show because sometimes it's about hit with beer and the money. So I remember being like, oh, it's the Jersey Boys, but they sound so good, like
Right. I mean, it's built for sound.
phenomenal, and it's just a beautiful theater. I mean, just from the minute you walk in to the minute you walk out, it's just beautiful. But the
Yeah.
sound, it's built the right way. I was looking at one point when I was still booking shows and doing stuff at the Pony and everything, I was like, I'm just going to stick my favorite band in here, pretend like it's going to sell out, and see if they fall for it. I was actually going to like overpay. I was like, maybe I'll just reach out to the drive-by truckers or somebody like that will like make the place shake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never had enough balls to do it, but
well, the only time that I was at the Pony was for the Garden State Beard and Mustache show.
Okay.
That I emceed. And so that was, I could say that I performed at the Stone Pony, the legendary Stone Pony.
Yeah, I tell you, man, luckily I worked there for a long time. And as much as, everybody's like, oh, coolest job ever. What do you really do for a living? And I was always like, I make more than you doing this. But, it's the same thing with records. You always hear like, oh, you sell records for a living? So what do you do during the day?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, during the day, I play video games on my phone while you're at work, asshole. But anyway.
I'm the only schmuck with a day job and a performing gig.
I just used to get that. When I worked in the clubs, like literally, I'd be like, oh, I work in a club. What do you do? Oh, I'm a manager. Oh, cool. What do you do? Well, do you have your McDonald's? Yeah, like, so my point being, anyway, I saw so many bands there that I didn't want to see ever. Like, you're just sitting, like you sit on side of stage like this.
Yeah.
And, I started out as like a security guy that went to head security. Then it was like, then I got into production, stage management, all that crap. I had a personnel at one point, and I started realizing the last couple of years I was there, I was like, I actually like Madish Yahoo. And my wife looked at me like my head exploded. And she goes, what? I was like, I got to tell you, I will never listen to this man's music outside of this venue. but I will watch that guy play every time he plays at the Pony. And
I
I start,
was I was
taking it.
out. He did the Stone Pony outdoor show.
Oh my God, he kills it.
And for some reason I was in Asbury that week, and I don't know, maybe I was working at Asbury Lanes
Okay.
doing so. But some reason I remember he was there, and I was able to hear some of the show, and I mean, not my thing at all.
Musically, it's pretty suspect. I'm not a big fan musically, honestly, but he's one of those guys. I started like learning something new about music, which I never thought I'd do. All of a sudden I was like, I'm just going to watch the show. And then I realized like there's a whole nother performance art is obviously a big piece of that, but I started getting into this weird vibe, and I still do it with like a lot of the reggae records I'm chasing on the island. I chase these dub plates because they're one-offs, they're specials, they're pressed on acetate. That's it. One copy is done for a certain DJ, and then they bend them after they play them once.
Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, no, those are really easy to find. So yeah, I'm not in some
Well, the
weird
bent
black.
ones, I'm sure.
I'm in like the worst collecting black hole ever because that's all I look for now.
Right.
I started watching these dudes, and it was Madashyahu was the first one where I was like, this fucking guy's good. Like I was just like he owned the crowd, owned it, just owned it. And then I actually paid attention when Springsteen came back into the Pony, because I've never seen Springsteen play actually one spot outside of the Stone Pony. And I sat there on the side of the stage, and I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I can't music, but I get it. Like the dude owns the crowd. It's like everybody becomes a cult member for like 45 minutes.
Yeah. I Springsteen, the first time I saw him was out at, I think it was like what, Meadowlands, probably early 90s, very early 90s. And it was like some world hunger benefit that he was doing, whatever. It was like, it was a time when he had, I guess, gotten rid of the E Street Band, but brought them back for this show. I knew nothing of Springsteen at the time, but I mean, everyone around me was all abuzz because the E Street Band is back. And it was like, I hear I'm in Jersey.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I knew like Hungry Heart. I knew like, the big pop hits.
You owned a radio.
Exactly. Had a radio through, 70s and 80s, and you knew the radio songs, but the crowd was just going ballistic. But you were able to see what a master performer Springsteen is.
Yeah. I mean, as far as professionalism and everything else, from the minute that gentleman walks into the bar to the minute he leaves, there is not one moment that he's not on. And a lot of it I think does come naturally, but he, to me, and I, once again, not really a fan of his music. To me, he was like the top. And I started comparing all these other guys who run stages, and I started noticing like a guy like Madashyahu, he has to move around. He has to do certain things to own a crowd. Like he has a pretty clear stage as far as production goes. And he's very active. He's all over the stage, and people follow him, because he's always jumping, climbing, doing. Springsteen's personality is what does it. I mean, the dude hooks you in. And I found myself all of a sudden being like, this is pretty damn good. Like having that moment where I'm like, I don't want to admit it. And like looking at my sound guy, like, do we have to admit this is okay? And I went back, and I had some lucky moments. I got to see him and Mike Ness practicing I Fought the Law. Wow. It was just, they were in a trailer, and it was my job to get them on stage and all that fun crap at the Pony. And I walked in, and they were going, and I just sat there for a minute and took it in, and you remember those moments. Like something that'll probably carry me. I'm not a big Mike Ness fan. I'm not a big Springsteen fan, but I'm not stupid. Like the gravity of that moment to them was nothing. But to me, I was like, these are two masters at the top of their game.
Yeah.
You guys at the best they're going to be this.
Totally understand it. I did the Jimmy Kimmel show when he was in New York. I mean, it was an all-day shoot for literally, like, I was on air where if you blinked your eye, you'd miss me. But I physically had to be at the thing. It was Brooklyn Academy of Music from early in the morning until the thing was filmed 6, 7 o'clock. And then literally as soon as my segment was done, they threw me out of the theater. I mean, like, okay, get your shit and leave, but I almost got thrown out earlier for talking to Billy Joel.
Yeah, don't do that.
Billy Joel, he's like an A-lister. Who the hell am I? I'm the sword swallower from Coney Island. And, but they almost threw me out on that. But watching him doing the sound check, the rehearsal, it was me and like two other people sitting in this big theater all alone. Band is on stage. He's just banging it out. And it's like, that's magic.
Oh yeah,
absolute magic.
During sound check, that's the one thing you notice too. I've sat through so many painful sound checks, and these guys come out, and it's not always them, obviously, but when they do come out, they'll belt out the song in sound check. And a lot of guys are like, oh, save your voice. I'm like, that dude doesn't know how to do that. They only know how to be good. They don't know how to be, just doesn't, it does not compute. It's like watching a baseball player who's not going to half swing. They don't know, good ones don't know how to half swing,
Right.
And I watched, speaking of those weird moments, but I had the amazing privilege of putting Mick Jones in Asbury Lanes. I don't know if you remember that show. It was years ago.
No.
I handled Mick Jones it was Carbon Silicon. Mick Jones with Tony James. I got them to play at the Lanes. Someone handed me the show. We got, it was announced on, I think, the night before on the Tonight Show or one of the shows, because they kept you announce. I'm like, we can't even announce it. It was like so hush hush. I was like, it's so hush hush that no one's allowed to know. Yeah, I was like, it was the weird. And they announced it the night before, I think, on the Tonight Show or whatever show they played on that night. And they showed up the next day. That's a little intimidating. And I had been doing production for a long time at that point. I've tripped over Dylan. I've had my dumb moments in production where you're like, okay, now it can't get worse. First time I was nervous. I was nervous. I was like, the bus pulled up. I was like, oh my God. It was like prom. I was like, I don't know if I want to go in. I was, Mick Jones, well, his dudes got off. I talked to them. And then, I'm just like lowly punk rock kid in my head. Like, I'm sure I would imagine you feel the same way. No matter what you're doing, if you're in a suit in a room, in my head, I'm still like, what am I doing here, man? What is going? You guys are
sometimes,
stupid.
Yeah.
I'm always like, why? What are you? Why? I'm lost. I'm going to leave. I'm always like thinking I don't belong. So, just sit in these meetings for festivals and be like, why am I the only one wearing ripped shorts? Fuck. You really want to give me a $2.4 million budget? Okay, that's if you do that. So here comes Mick Jones, and he steps off the bus and, hey, Mr. Jones, I try and be professional because I'm like, hey, Mr. Jones, here's how professional I am. I stuck your ass in a bowling alley. I realized how stupid that moment was that I looked at him. I was like, hey, I'm the guy who booked you in a bowling alley, man, and just started laughing.
Now this is the old lanes. This isn't the new refurbished lanes.
Old lanes.
This the old lanes.
Yeah, this is like we had to borrow monitors from the pony lanes. Yeah, this was like, do we have enough microphones for 3 people? Like, so, Mick was in there all day hanging out, and he was a gentleman. At one point he grabbed a guitar and just, some girl said, hey, can you sign this? He said, no, follow me. And he took like 5 people to the boardwalk and played on the boardwalk. And people walked by and threw change at him.
Oh, that's great.
It was intense. It was, as far as music goes, as far as nerding the fuck out goes, excuse my language, it was nerd out day.
Yeah.
Because his management, I can't say who at that time it was, but his management was also handling 2 of the biggest artists in the world. So there's like record nerds who only know about, there's 4 records I want. No one else has ever heard of them. There's like production nerds, and I'm a production nerd. And I remember being like, do you know who that is? And everybody's like, the weird guy in the suit? Yeah, Mick Jones is cool and all, but that guy, that guy's been on stage with this guy. That guy's booked this guy. To me, it was like, he was my Gandhi, because he never stole. He was always like an honest promoter and an honest production guy. Not many of those. And Mick Jones comes back, and they're like, all right, we're going to sound check. Now me, once again, being like crappy punk rock kid in my head, what do? I'm like, okay, I'll go. I'm like, I'll leave. I kicked myself out. And then I walk out and I go, wait a minute, this is my show. I can't leave. I was like an idiot. I was so dumbfounded. I walked back in. Gentleman Jim was doing sound for us at the time.
Oh, I know Jim.
Yeah, Jim's great, dude. He tried to open mouth kiss me when I gave him the gig. And I said, so we're doing this, right? And I said, how long do I have to sound check? And he goes, like 30 minutes. I said, cool. I called 10th Avenue Burrito in Belmar. I ordered as much as I could for the money I had on me. I pulled out one of those old desks the Lanes used to use as a table.
Yeah.
And I dead center in front of the stage, about 10 feet out. And I had the best goddamn nachos of my life watching Mick Jones play Police and Thieves.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
higher sound check. And I swear to God, my life could have ended at that moment.
Isn't that great? I mean, really,
Yeah. Intense.
like, 2 months ago, we were doing a benefit for Coney Island. Yeah, very similar at Barry Electric. And it was a close set. We were filming everything to be broadcast a couple of days, a few days later. And Jesse Malin, I mean, it's his club, but he was, doing, he did a bunch of songs, and Zopa with Michael Imperioli's band. They did a couple of songs. Lenny K came down, and it was, Voluptuous Horror, Karen Black. So it was really this like beautiful night of rock and roll on a closed set. And I'm doing the introductions, so hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome. And then I just got to kind of scoot off to the side because it was all recorded live. I mean, there was editing involved, but they get me and then just pan right over to the stage. So I would, if they're going this way, I'm zipping this way, watching the bands in a closed room. But Lenny K was like, what a nice guy.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
mean,
Really.
a gentleman, soft spoken. I brought him a Nuggets album to sign, a reissue. And he's like, I can't, it's 50 years later. I can't believe people are still listening to this.
Yeah.
But he was like sincere about it. He's like, yeah, I'll sign it for you. Sure.
He came in the shop a few times. And we had some mutual production friends. And he came in right before they did that record release for RSD for him. And I had a stack of them. And he's like, hey, can I sign these? I said, no, dude, you're going to devalue them. Here. He's like, that's not cool. He's just like, I'm totally kidding. Okay, this is the one moment get it around, But he actually signed all of them for us so we could, and he's like, oh, I said, dude, I'm going to leave them the same price. We're going to have like 5 dudes' heads explode when they walk in and get a copy. That's awesome.
Right.
And it was his idea. That's what I thought was cool. Like, I was like, yeah, this guy's thinking about it. Like, he's on the money. He understands who he is. He's not a dick about it, which is amazing.
No.
Because he could. And I was blown away by his just humble, and he wanted to talk reggae. You want to get in my heart. You just say, hey, I like reggae and I'm good.
Right.
Else I ignore. So yeah, pretty entertaining. He's a really sweet guy.
Very, very nice guy.
A lot of that in the music industry. There's a lot of the other side of it too. But I'll tell you, those are the moments you never forget. It's the Lenny K's. It's the Mick Jones who I ended up hanging out with that night. And, you try not to be a fanboy because I did production once again for years. And the reason I got my gigs is I'm not a fanboy.
Right.
I don't care. Like, it's a job. You just got to get it done. It's no different than like making a Happy Meal. It's just like, get on the stage. Okay, get off the stage. You're standing between me and dinner now.
Right.
But when you see a Springsteen, like I did some work with them for some project, for a project or two, and it was like working the crew for them, and you're like, this is magic. Like, these dudes just touch it and it turns to gold. You know,
I've heard he's a very nice guy.
Dude, he's awesome.
Like to his fans.
He's super nice. He takes time. He I hate to blow that much smoke. I almost wish it wasn't true how nice he is.
Right.
I don't have a bad story about the dude. I really don't. And I've dealt with him a good amount of times in the clubs, and I've never seen him lose his temper. In a few situations he should have, where I was let down that he didn't. I was like,
wow.
I was like, boo. We all like a little,
He's then that makes him a total professional, total pro.
He walks through and he's eating lunch with the crew, like talking to us while we're eating lunch. He's that guy. And, sometimes that's really annoying when you're doing production, but for him, it's sincere. It's not because he's kissing our ass because he's gonna, he wants something.
It's just who he is.
He's just hanging out.
Yeah.
He thrives on that moment where he almost feels anonymous for a 10-minute span. where he's having that conversation with you about the dumbest crap ever. Because everybody seems to bring up the dumbest crap ever when that man's in the room. They all forget all semblance of reality.
Right.
And they're like, feel about chihuahuas.
I had a very similar experience with Gene Simmons. He was filming out of Coney Island. I was out there teaching sideshow school.
Hmm.
And so now I knew he was, I'm working there. So I knew he was going to be filming that day. And, it was, the room was open, but it was closed. You couldn't really approach. But I asked the security guy, can I go over and talk to Mr. He's like, yeah, go ahead, So I walk over to him, and instantaneously we're like talking like I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
and I actually brought him a yarmulke to autograph.
That's
and
awesome.
and he did. And threw a couple of Jewish jokes back and forth. We're talking about spitting fire, and he's telling me about how he had swallowed some fuel as a kid and I'd take Gapacac, and how when he caught his hair on fire, but it's like you're talking to someone who's another sideshow performer, like another fire eater. He's not Gene Simmons, the god of thunder. He's Gene. And it was like, wow.
You relish it, man, because it also, there's on the other end of that, I've had to deal with a couple guys where I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home and snap your records in half. Me and Southside had, a weird working relationship. I did some shows with him where I was like, get on the stage, like doing the slow talk to him, like, get on the stage, off the stage, you have no reason to talk to me now. Bye. But we get along ridiculously well because that, like, even when I took him to Jamaica, we got in some I didn't give him like the sweet and soft version of what I do. I gave him the like, all right, dude, it's gonna get bad, and he's
Down
like,
and
what?
dirty.
Yeah, I was like, no, it's gonna get bad. You're gonna see a couple guns now. And he's like, what do you mean? There's gonna what? It got weird. And I was like, yeah, when we get up to military checkpoint, the guys in uniform you have to listen to. The other guys are probably family members that are just hanging out. He's like, what? But I go into like dad mode when I'm in those situations because the guy who travels with me, Pete, who could make all the decisions in the world. He's on top of his game with that country. He knows, he's always gone with me, so he knows everybody and hangs out. But we usually have a third or fourth person, so there's always one person who's like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And for John, I turned into a stage manager. At one point, we got out of this place called Randy's, and it's in downtown, it's like central downtown Kingston, and we accidentally left when school let out, and not that that's really a problem because of the kids. It's just a massive amount of people.
Right.
And I had a microphone on and I had forgotten. And we heard the three letters you never want to hear in Jamaica: CIA. And I just went, so I started looking for the CIA. And then the guy who put the mic on me goes, oh my God, your microphone. And it was bad. It went bad. And John's like taking his sweet ass time getting in the car, I'm understanding the moment. The dude who goes with me, Pete, is definitely understanding the moment.
Yeah.
And I am on camera now yelling, get your ass in the car. No one gives a shit what songs you sang. To one of the biggest rock stars in the world, but once again, musically, you see these guys in those moments. It kind of really changes how you think about music a lot of times, because all of a sudden you start songs too, not because they told you, because you see their personality and you're like, kind of see where it comes from now.
Right.
Like, Springsteen's a really good example. I think that dude kind of gets it. Like he writes a song, I'm pretty sure he's sincere.
You feel that way, and you're not necessarily a fan. I like Springs. I didn't get his last few records, but picked up the latest one when I was down in Florida, and Letter to You. And it's a sincere record. He's not a kid anymore, riding down the streets of South Jersey. Can we say that? South Jersey. And it's not about Thunder Road. It's about aging. It's about living as a 70 something year old guy.
Yeah, I mean, to watch people mature musically and it matches their life is kind of refreshing because, every time I see Britney Spears do Oops, I Did It Again, my heart fucking dies. Like a spike, and I got to take it out and hope that everything's okay when it's over. When I watch like some of these guys get up there, I'm okay with the New Kids on the Block reunion once. You
See, all right. Now, I've been to a bunch of those lost 80s tours, where it's the mostly one-hit wonders of the 80s. And I mean, the sets are literally 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, they're doing 1 to 3 songs
yeah,
per band. And I mean, it's almost like when you go to a racetrack and the race is on, and then there's like, 15 minutes in between as they're cleaning cleaning the track. And now that next race. And that's
oh,
exactly what it was. It was
yeah.
quick, it was expedited. You're never waiting more than 15 minutes in between songs, and each set is about 10, 15 minutes. But that's about fun. I mean, they know what they are. And after the set, they come right out into the audience, and they're taking pictures, and they're shaking hands, and they're signing autographs. They know what it is, you know.
There's a certain like honesty in that, and that's a
Yeah,
good like.
yeah,
You love that. Um, unfortunately, I've done a lot of festivals, and I say unfortunately because most of them are a big pain in the balls. But I've done like Bamboozle. I did those at Giant Stadium, and I was a stage manager. I did the one in Asbury. I was a crew chief and a stage manager. And the guys who are happy with who they are, I mean, they're a pleasure to work with.
yeah.
So for me, I saw the drive. I always bring up the Drive By Truckers because I think they're one of the most least offensive bands out there and most universal bands out there. Where most
Mhm.
people go, "Oh yeah, they're just a rock band, right?" And I go,
Right.
"Yeah, they're a really good example." I saw them play Maxwell's. There was like 15 people there. It was a little weird. Yeah, like
Yeah.
nobody, including me. I knew like 3 songs, but then I got on a plane and went down to Florida and saw them at Freebirds. When Jason Isbell was still drinking and I was still drinking. And I had about a half bottle of Jim Beam with that dude. The other half I finished while he was trying to get on stage. And like, and I actually feel like that band, I grew with it because that dude went sober. I went sober. First time I ever got flagged at a gas station was in Florida that night, you know.
Right.
But you watch that band mature, and now this is not a guy who's singing about like I can't wait to get home and get drunk and meet a girl. He's singing about his kids.
Right.
So it's relative. It's relative to your lifestyle, my lifestyle.
Exactly.
I do understand these guys who are like, hey, I make a living writing party songs. That's cool. That's great. That's wonderful. It's just not my gig. Like I'm
Yeah.
just like the hardcore shit. I love it. I love hardcore. Every inch of my being. I am who I am because of hardcore music and punk and oi. But I have a really hard time, yelling about the youth
Right.
when get up early.
That's it.
I got a
That's
job.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like my son should be singing those songs in 10 years.
Right.
Not me.
Right. Not you.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I'm good. You guys have the fucking revolution. Be really loud about it. I'm going to go on Twitter. You guys pile on in real life. I'm going to pile on Twitter. That's
Right. And
no,
that's it from the comfort of my easy chair. And
yeah,
that's it.
yes. There's so much to be happy about. I get it. There's so many struggles too. But at one point, I'm not saying you have to grow out of hardcore, but at one point, like for me, just things changed. The Misfits records that we started this whole conversation with, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'll be the guy to say I'm not a Misfits guy. I know like Angels lost their wings just now, but I'm not a Beatles guy either. So, I don't get it, but I understand it. And I don't get how you go to see them at Madison Square Garden for like a gazillion dollars.
I don't know.
But it's the same way I won't pay a gazillion dollars for a record either. I got to be honest with you.
Right. I mean, we'll start wrapping up on this thought. I
Yeah.
mean, here we go back 25 years ago,
Yeah.
and you got the Ramones, that are one of my all-time favorite bands. They when I was in high school, they spoke to me. It clicked the minute I heard it. I mean, prior to that, it was, metal, Twisted System, Maiden, Priest, the popular metal of the time. And then I heard the Ramones, and boom, where has this been? Again, and it resonates. It still does. But they would go down to South America, play 50,000 seat arenas. They were the biggest thing. And they'd come back to New York and play Coney Island High to
Yeah.
300 people.
Yeah.
And I was at every show there, but I couldn't, and I would imagine that if they were alive today, they would be playing Madison Square Garden like the Misfits,
In Elvis jumpsuits. No, I don't.
Johnny would be wearing Elvis jumpsuit.
I think this is where I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think they would be playing Madison Square Garden, because I don't think they would have stopped playing. There would have been continuity for them. I think they would. I think they're the band that every couple of years tries to figure it out again.
Nah, they towards the end. I mean, from what I've heard, and from a few reputable people, they were done. They were absolutely
They're
done,
wrong.
and like they knew that they wanted to call it quits. Everyone sort of wanted. Johnny wanted to retire, and I mean. Joey, he was into it. Mark still would have played. CJ probably still would have played. But I think Johnny really was the sort of, the impetus to say, all right, look, I just need to retire.
Pass. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely not my world. I don't know the ins and outs of the Ramones. I would definitely. So when I say I don't understand paying that much money to see a Misfits. I don't think it's the Misfits per se as much as the situation.
Oh yeah.
Like, personally, I can't wrap my head around reliving that moment with that many people.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean, right? Like,
absolutely.
It doesn't lose any sincerity. It just, for me personally, I walk in that room, I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've been to stadium shows. I've been like a Giants. I saw Springsteen at Giant Stadium. I had floor seats. I mean, I was pretty close to the front, but wouldn't bother seeing him in, way the hell up, in the sky. Not worth it. I saw the Stones at the Garden, and I was literally the last row in the top section across the stadium, where I was really able to see the person's butt crack better than I was able to see, Mick and Keith on stage. I mean, it was really, at that point, take the money, just, tear it up. But seeing big shows in big arenas like that, they don't do it for me. And I don't understand spending that kind of money to see a show like that. I like the intimate setting, but most of the bands I listen to are these smaller bands. And granted, there are some that are playing stadiums or larger venues, but I prefer the smaller ones. And
I'm with you, man. I'm not a Stones guy, but I saw the Stones at Madison Square Garden in luxury suite box as a gift, and walked out third song. So there you go. Opposite spectrum there. I literally walked past Yoko Ono at that show, and remember I was like, why am I here? Like, it was just pro bono from a production guy that they owed me a big favor, and they're like, here you go. And I was like, so are you mad at me? Because I'm just not a Stones guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, cool. And I couldn't say no, because that's kind of a big deal. I'm the only one not in a suit drinking the Guinness out of the fridge, and we had our own buffet and the whole thing. And I remember walking up, and there's like two New York state troopers, like full tactical gear. And I was like, are we at a fucking Stone show? Like, what is that for? And then I looked behind them, and there's Yoko Ono sitting by herself.
Well, they were expecting another Altamont. So
I was like, what is going on? Yeah. I was like, I know that's Yoko Ono. I mean, is she that unruly that they need two state troopers, or are they just put out another album? Like, what's going on?
Broke up the Beatles. I mean, come on.
Pretty dangerous. Yeah. So I was just like, they like wheel her out, with a mask on. But I was like, wow, this is. And then third song in, I realized I was just like totally outclassed, because I was like, I was wearing a wife beater and all type of stuff. And then I started really looking around, and self-awareness kicked in. I'm like, Oh yeah, that's like a $5,000 suit.
Right. Right.
So we're gonna snatch like 12 of those Guinnesses from my backpack, and we're gonna finish this party outside. Yeah, I turned my age pretty quick. They're all like, "Oh, where you going? We heard you're the stage manager for this, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just gotta go use the bathroom." You know, and
What do
I
they call
drank.
it? An Irish goodbye?
Yeah, yeah, that was the very Sicilian Italian goodbye because I took 12 canisters of Guinness, and I remember sitting outside drinking them out of brown paper bags, and I was like, "Ah, this is where I belong. This
Right.
is
On the street. Wow. Oh,
$3,000."
this has been great.
Yeah,
Joe, I mean, these stories, I could go on forever, but I think we do have to kind of shut the show. So thank you so much. So,
always
all right, what I'll do is I'll give a wrap up. So wait, on the 20th, so this is going to air before the 27th. So
okay.
you're going to be on the 27th, you said.
As of right now, it's June 27th at Kennedy Park in Asbury Park, New Jersey. It's the corner of Cookman and Grand. You can go to, at Holdfast Records NJ on Instagram or our website, which is holdfastasburypark.com. All the info will be there. It's gonna be like 15 to 20 vendors, about 20,000 records for sale. I'm bringing, 10 or $15 boxes on top of about 1,045s and about 1,000 LPs. And almost, I'd say 95% of it's never been seen before.
Nice. And I'll
Yep.
have all of this in the description. So,
Awesome.
friends, if you're watching, you don't have to go searching for it. It'll all be just below.
Cool.
And any other links that you want to share are all going to be down
No.
there. So, we
Well,
want to make sure that, people are checking you out on Discogs, right? You're on Discogs
yep.
and at shows. We said the Vinyl Revolution show is coming up in October. You got some time for that, but that's in October.
Yeah. Yeah. Time
And
seems by now though, man, because now that we're actually leaving the house, things like months disappear. It's very weird.
yeah, well, summer's going to fly by, and before you know it, we'll be
Good.
seeing each other in Garden City at the Vinyl Revolution
Get
show.
Tony on high. All right. It was very good talking to you.
Right on. So let me wrap up here, friends. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Your Personal Record. I want to thank Joe right over here from Holdfast Records in Asbury Park, now on Discogs, now at record fairs all over the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and soon to be across the country. Record
Hopefully.
fairs. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you like us, subscribe and hit like and leave comments. And I check them all and comment, and we'll answer your comments. Joe, thank you so very, very much. I'll stop recording now, and then I'll thank you, off camera. So
Of course. Yeah.
thanks, everybody.